Welcome back to my garage. I've made some changes to my cylinder, which I think might pull us out of this pattern of endless suffering and actually into a new era of success. At least I hope so. I'm fairly confident. I'll clean the table and then I'll explain. Clean the table as a symbol of a fresh start. I've got my cylinder with the changes here, but before I show you in detail, I'll give you a little explanation of why. In a typical high-performance two-stroke cylinder, you have transfers coming in like this. Imagine this being like the exhaust side. Then you have an A transfer, a B transfer, and a C transfer. Looks like this, but I've spread it out flat here. So this is the entrance area of the transfers. And then you have the exit area here. These angles are important in a two-stroke. These angles are what decide how the scavenging performs, how well it scavenges the cylinder. Fills it up with fresh mix and removes the spent gases. Now normally in most cylinders you'll see something like this. So this wall is not there anymore. This is how it looks in my cylinder. Well, actually more like this is how it looks in my cylinder. In most cylinders you'll see something like this. Entrance, then like a sharp hook into the cylinder. The reason I did it this way was to gain more directional control. Have the fresh flow coming in from here conform better to this angle. To aim better in the way this angle aimed. This angle was pretty much a guess, educated guess. It's not as much as you typically see with the hooked cylinders, but not much less either. And herein lies our problem. I think this angle is far too much directed towards the exhaust port. I think this just blows the mixture straight out of the exhaust port. I'll show you a picture from my CAD drawing and you'll see what I mean. I still think a transfer port like this is better, where the angle is retained. But I don't think it can be as extreme as with normal hooked cylinders. I think it has to be maybe more like this. And I think this is the problem we've been fighting all along. Now I'll show you the cylinder. So here's what I've done. I've made inserts, making this almost a straight across angle. And then there's a 2mm slight hook at the end here. I should have brought you along when I printed these and glued them in, but I did that yesterday night and I didn't really have time to do any filming and stuff. It's just a couple of PLA stuffers. I've coated them with a tiny bit of JB Weld just to have them stay in place. If this doesn't work, we can just melt them out. As I said, I'm almost 100% sure this will solve our problems. This was the issue all along. There's not much else weird about this cylinder now. And now the ports are very much a normal configuration. Exciting. Point 4 doesn't go in, 0.3 does, so about 0.35. A safe ring gap. I'm removing the crankcase stuffer because it has to be modified to run with the new inserts. I'm not confident the crankcase volume is the main problem anymore. It might run just fine without this. If not, we'll make a new one that accommodates the new transfer inserts. I'm actually kind of afraid of starting it now because I'm so confident in that we've found the problem that's been there all along, which we've never found. before. It's a nice feeling knowing you found the problem. Not that nice when you realize it's not the problem after all. I'm hoping that's not the case. Let's see how it behaves. I'm hoping you saw the important parts. The camera stopped recording for some reason. It's running much better. This is a success. There's no power yet at all, and at low RPM it's really struggling. We need a stuffer back in there. At the moment, crankcase volume is ridiculous, especially for reed valves. It's still a little bit ridiculous with this in there. I'm going to design a new one that accommodates the new inserts in the transfers and also maybe takes up a little more volume, if I can. Ooh. Great success. Idiot. Here's the new one that accommodates these pieces. The reason I didn't make this and those in one unit is then I wouldn't be able to push them into the cylinder because they curve in like this. But in this way, there's no problem. Let's see how it behaves with a little bit more normal crankcase volume this time. I've written down the ratios for the gears. We'll have to find a suitable gear for testing and plot that into the software so we can get accurate RPM readings. Let's see how it behaves. I think I missed my mark and retarded timing too much when I reset it earlier. I can't give it full throttle. I'm gonna raise the needle to richen it some at higher throttle openings. Let's try one more time, and now RPM should be correct in third gear. Was in the second to highest position. Now I'm setting it in the middle, one step lower. I'm also going to top up the fuel. How much suffering do you want? Yes. The bottom of the carb is wet, and so is the area under the carb. It's obviously foaming and leaking still. Armor all. I know. You've said it multiple times. I'm gonna get some Armor all and try that in my fuel and see if that helps. Why? It's not making any power at all. Like, it barely pulls third gear. I had it in fourth for a while there. Inconsistency, like it pulls better sometimes and then not. And same thing with the throttle. Sometimes 3/4 to full throttle, sometimes not. So obviously there's something going on with the fuel supply. Now we're running out of other things. Case volume is still huge, but within acceptable limits for making acceptable power. Transfer geometry is fairly normal. We still have that super narrow exhaust exit. Well, actually not super narrow, it's equivalent to exhaust area at the port with the bridge in there now. I really don't think this is the problem, but this is also something different about my cylinder. That's the thing, it's boring to just try improving upon a known design, you know. That's why all this is happening. Maybe I should have gone with a little fewer experimental features all at once, but still boring. Like, there's so many people building engines with known good cylinder geometry and all that, so what's the point? That's why all this suffering. It'll probably not end anytime soon. I mean, when this is working, there's always something new to try. Let's try with a 20mm Dell'Orto carb. Maybe it's less finicky about vibrations. And the engine is balanced like you would have. And the engine is balanced to 55% or so. So normal balance factor. It's not vibrating excessively. My plug cap was sitting just loosely on top of the plug. It's really, like, the connection is really bad. I'm hoping that's part of the problem. Let's replace it. And at the same time, let's check timing and confirm that it's sitting at a reasonable number. It's sitting at 2 millimeters before top dead center. And that's what they want in the instructions. What timing that corresponds to, I have no clue. But let's just follow what they say in the instructions here. 2 strokes, 50 to 80 cc, until 15,000 RPM, 2 to 2.4 millimeters before top dead center. Let's just leave it like it is now. We can always advance it more if we want to. I'm just gonna lay here now and wait for the sweet release of death. But seriously, maybe it is my exhaust duct design. Maybe it is too narrow for too long. Like, even in neutral, I can only rev it so high and then it starts backfiring. I have a suspicion it's still the case volume though. It's still higher than what's. It's still far too high for reed valves. I think we'll have to go to extreme measures. It's the exhaust duct. People have been commenting that it's too small and it looks kind of narrow, and it is, but I didn't know, because this was supposed to be designed with a 100% of effective port area exit of the duct. As my exhaust port is blow down only, it doesn't protrude more than like 1 millimeter below the transfers. A good rule of thumb for a normal exhaust port, where it does protrude down to like the same height as the transfer floors, is 80% of effective exhaust area in the duct exit. The reason is you want high velocity. You want to hit like Mach 0.8 in simulations in the duct. When your exhaust port floor is the same height as the transfers, then a good rule of thumb is 100% of effective exhaust port area in the duct exit. And that's what I did. Or did I? Probably due to too many glasses of rum. I had a brain fart while designing this, and I designed this to be 80% of effective exhaust port area. It's supposed to be 100, and I didn't realize until now, because I knew I designed it as 100%. Well, I didn't. Let's hope this is the problem. I was contemplating printing out the template and then freehand grinding the duct to proper size. There's very little material to work with here. I made the duct walls thin for better cooling. I need to set it up in the mill so I can get the correct area and volume without punching through the walls. My mill is a little bit vertically impaired. I'll have to clamp this down as low profile as possible, like this, and then some extra clamps to keep it secure. You can see the difference. Now I'll have to perform some manual blending and finishing of areas I couldn't reach. Not only is my mill vertically impaired, it's also axis impaired. So I'll have to grind out the sides here and also blend in the transition. I made this a little bit larger than the outlet of the cylinder to make sure there's no step in this direction. There is a step in this direction now, but that could be a good thing, keeping spent gases out of the cylinder. There's enough length and volume in here to have all the fresh mix being pulled out by the exhaust that's been pushed back in, contained within the duct. So there's nothing in the exhaust pipe itself that should enter the cylinder. So a step here isn't a bad idea. Let's try out the stuffer now. Normal transfer geometry, correct size exhaust duct. Promising. Running so much better. Still not much power, but probably twice of what it was before the exhaust duct modification. It was that duct all along. I think I'll have to rethink the theory about having 100% of the blowdown exhaust area at the exit of the duct. I have a strong suspicion we'll finally see some power when we enlarge the duct. There's some people out there saying, "I told you so" now. But this theory works with a normal exhaust port. Well, 80% of that exhaust port. Too tight. We gotta make it. Back to the drawing board. See you next time.